Welcome back to Wall Tactics. We're here with the rise of the green tide, as the return of the Great WAAAGH has struck much fear in the Imperium and all of these other Xenos races, chaos, spiky gits, and so much more. Welcome back, boys. So today we're going to go over how the Orks have made a bit of a surge last weekend, surprisingly, even without the point increases in some of these events we're going to cover. Though we will end up going over Bully Boyz, War Horde, and a nice fancy green tide list, which already shows some indication of growth and modifications that will also be adjusted that correlate to the point changes, meaning Orc players were already starting to catch on to some of these units, and that's where we're at now. So let's take a look at how the Orcs are doing. Find a lot of hope and happiness in the fact that the greenskins have struck fear into the meta. But first, shout out to our sponsor, Baron of Dice. As Baron of Dice now have Wall Tactic Dice. Yes, we actually have some Wall Tactic Dice. So check them out in the description. 5% off. Actually helps us greatly. But also, as of this week, this time of this recording, right now live, Baron of Dice has 15% off if you use the keyword spooky for the code discount. So check out Baron of Dice and pick up some Wall Tactic Dice. It directly helps the channel very much. That way we can do our paint competitions and so much more. So thank you very much, everybody. But let's get back to the Wall Tactics. Now, let's look at Meta Monday. He actually didn't have any notes about Orks. I guess he didn't really have much to say. Didn't want to say none. It's all good, Meta Monday. We appreciate you. So you can see Green Tide sitting at 70%. It was really just two players, but them gets for going off if we're going to go over in one of these players' lists. We have Bully Boyz at a 57% win rate, which is interesting, right? Because we didn't think those 5% were enough for Mega Knobs necessarily, yet they've been making a surge. Now, is it because the players were exceptional? That's to be debated. Then we have War Horde 42, really average, but of course it's because it's the all-comers kind of detachment. Whether you're on the pinnacle of the player base or you're just an average Joe, you can get in there and play with War Horde, find a good team, and then the Big Hunt at 40%. Big Hunt is right there on the cusp, guys, right? I mean, the fact that you can actually uppy downy a kill rig gives me so much like excitement to want to play this detachment. You really just got to change the rule. So GW, a little bit hear us out. We don't really want much. The Hunt's really right on the edge. Just give them a little bit of keyword detachment changing in the wording. That way we can maybe pick it like freely or whatever. But people would excitingly, happily play with something like the Hunt. So GW, just shout out to them. Help us play the way we would like to. With that being said, I want to go over the first list, the first event that we're going to cover today, which had most people's attention, as is very, very justified. We have Denver Fight Club for October open, very popular, very Shark Tankish event here. We're actually going to go over the second place player, third place. Michael Mann. He is a coach on Art of War as well. And surprisingly and happily enough, you can catch two of his games that we're going to go over on War Games Live. Of course, you can see a little bit of a spoiler here, but we can talk about some key points you can look for. And it's still a lot to learn from that in real time, which is some of the best ways you can learn if you can actually get out there and do it yourself sometimes, right? So let's go over Mr. Michael Mann's list. As it was a blast from the past, as he named his list OG Bully Boyz. Well, you can see he had a bit of a twist. So he has the Big Mac making his appearance again. The ability to just walk through models, the ability to walk through these screens, ability to walk through cargo containers. People actually really, really like this mech, it seems like. But it's a little bit exclusive to these high tier players, right? If you want to talk about the other guy, Eric, that did it, Eric Sepp, I believe either he's an Art of War coach or a Team America player as well. I forgot what it is. But these are really niche circumstances. So I don't want you to go out there and be like, yes, or this is the key, or you playing with them and you're wondering, hey, how come this isn't working? It's because these are very, very high level players. So it is niche. It's still, but something to be looked out for, especially if you picked up that box. And, he's a nice model, very nice model. So happy to see it. We got Boss Snake Rot with his very unique uppy downy ability in the movement phase, which makes him kind of unique. Again, you can actually watch how he uses them in real time in the games. That way, if you really want to get Snick Rock going on, you can see how he's used there as well. We have 2 war bosses and then 3 war bosses in mega armor. Only one enhancement needed here is the teleporter. That's how I kind of feel about Bully Boyz too. I don't really find too much need for any of the other enhancements other than the teleporter. Teleporter is amazing. It feels so good to have a war boss and mega armor unit as a teleporter unit because it acts as your, as you would call kind of in the military, I'm having a brain fart, a QRF force, right? It's your quick response force. The fact that you can drop a rapid ingress unit out with your mega knobs, it becomes a problem solving unit actually to have in your back pocket. And it kind of goes with helping the fact that you have helping the fact that if you go second with Bully Boyz, that you can act in a reactive manner that's still beneficiary to you and proactive, because you have 2 walls. One can be defensive, and then the second one can be kind of your turn to throttle, even if you end up going second. Meaning you're going to rapid ingress this unit, and that kind of like counter the enemy's response to the fact that you actually are going second now. So in a way, it really makes you feel a lot better for going second in Bully Boyz that other detachments don't really have. Because nobody's really in deep striking ingress a mega knob or that kind of potential unit in other detachments. So then we have a 20-man unit of boys to go right along that Big Mac and a war boss. We got a truck, just one simple truck, but along those trucks we have 2 battle wagons with hard cases, 2 minimum size units of Gretchens, 1 commando unit. I'm telling you guys, if you're talking about top tables, if you're talking about people who really understand how to play the pace of the 5-turn, 4-turn game, people understand that you want infiltrators. You want scouts, and commandos. You see often, time and time again, high-level players pay the premium for these commandos because you just need to have that presence and to be able to control like a tempo of the game. So commandos are one of those key units, but you got to get reps on them. I have videos on it in the playlist so you can get kind of the fundamentals of it, which is getting reps in, know what it does for each matchup is really how you get the most a value out of these commandos, because you're not doing the same thing over and over again because they're not a damage dealer. Like you're just like, hey, I'm gonna run up and punch you. You actually have to figure out what they do in that matchup, the deployment, stuff like that. You have 3 units of Mega Knobs, all of them with twin kill slots because we love having -3 AP. Twin linked also, it feels really, really good when you're already sitting at strength 12, going up strength 13. You need it, right? Because you're hitting on 3s, hopefully, with your War Boss and Mega Armor. You're hitting on 3s. The fact that you're usually wounding on 2s or 3s, re-rolling, is inverse. You kind of look at it where you're like, man, this feels really bad that I have to hit on 3s. With Bully Boyz, you do get re-rolls, but not all, on every unit, right? Not all the time on every unit. So you go like, oh man, that sucks that I'm hitting on 3s, but you're almost completely turning those hit rolls into wound rolls as a result of like 96%, because you're wounding people on 2s with 3 rolls, and then sometimes you're wounding on 3s with 3 rolls. So it's still very, very good, but that's why you more likely to pick twin kill sauce. Then you got 1 5-man unit of knobs power claws because you love those for the other war boss unit, and then 1 simple storm boy unit because you always need the storm boys. And let's go, everybody. Gonna get a whoa for all the orcs because let's see Michael Mann's path to victory. So let's go over this because he did have 8 games. So we have and these guys actually, and you'll see if you actually look this up on the War Games Live, if you check our Discord out, we actually have a channel for battle reports and stuff like that. So you can just find it right in there and watch this. Luckily, it's all on one video too. Both games are. It's like the beginning of the video and the end of the video. So it's really good. It's for the games that you were going to cover here. So you can see how it's used. But one thing here is that they actually did use the new points, and so some of them had not painted models because they were kind of allowed that grace as that they were forced upon to use the new points. So from the 3 lists we're going to cover today, this is going to be the only list that's using new points. But that's still something to keep in mind when we look at the opponents that he's going into. So that's pretty cool. So we have Space Marines, Space Wolves playing Gladius Task Force. So didn't go in the Sons of Rust, but it's all good. Gladius is well rounded. We got Librarian, Fire Discipline, Lieutenant in Combi, Lord Grimnar, Wolf Guard on Thunderwolf, and a Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf. Basic Intercessors. It says Assault Intercessors with jump packs, a drop pod, Infiltrators, Long Fangs, 2 bricks of Thunderwolf Cavalry, a Wolfen, and then a Canis Rex. you know, not really the most competitive list, but we already know that Michael Mann was most likely gonna be winning first round anyways, being who he is. But we still had to show off the list, right? It's all good. Sometimes that happens. We have Bulgrin's last hurrah. So this guy knew that the Bulgrin were on their way out, but he was still trying to give him some love. So we have Lors Solar Leontis, platoon command squad, tank commanders who can now give themselves orders. That's what I'm talking about. Then we have Katachan, 2 big bricks of Bulgrin. So yes, these Bulgrin are going to be getting kind of pushed out of the way, maybe less of them. You might bring their counterparts, right? So we have the Ogren, but they have shotguns. They have their ability to do a little bit of combat with knives. But the fact that the tank commanders, their gun line resources got more reliable means, you know, sticking some other kind of dudes in the way, little thick boys might still pose enough of you know, bulwark to hold the line for the guard as they just lay you out for the whole game. That's why people are finding them very, very potent right now. We got a Hellhound, Lehman Russ, Exterminator, Rogeldorn, 3 individual Scout Sentinels, and then, of course, the dreaded Tempestus Aquilons. These guys are coming in with their deep strike of 3 inches, right? So they're going to come in and get right up on your face, take your backfield, maybe stop you from doing the secondary by landing an objective with you, hit you with flamers. People are not looking forward to the fact that Guard have one of these units now to go right alongside these Tempestus Scions. Orc players have to be aware of this, right? These Tempestus Aquilons can actually clear our favorite little token 11-man unit of Grots, right? So having more Grots might become more of the play, having, you know, the ability to actually screen out correctly and not even allow these little 20 mil bases to get in your backfield. So that's going to be quite potent. I would say this is one of those cases where you are Michael Mann, so you're coming over this, but just know, Orc players, that Astro Militar is going to be one of those matchups that you have to be weary of. But in the spectrum, quite in a suitable way, Guard is kind of like the other side of the face of the coin of ours, right? Because they're the Imperium version of us, where they're blood and they exchange bodies for scoring and such like that. And but the player themselves really can you know, reflect the skill, the potential of the army, or really bring it down. And just like us, right? And so when you're going against Michael Mann, it's like, okay, it's like one of the best Orc players on the planet versus, you know, a good Guard player. Let's say even it's still gonna offset that matchup enough. But for the rest of us mortals out here, be very wary, because it was still not a great scoring game for him in that second game. You know, going against a Guard player, so they do pose us a lot of threats. I'm not trying to hold players down, so that's why I'm not going to sit on it and make people think like, oh man, we automatically lose. You don't automatically lose. Just know that you're going to have to play in your P's and Q's, start tagging people up, have great, you know, distribution of resources, because you see in round 3 he goes against them again. He calls it the bang bus. So people are bringing out their Guard again. They're ready to go, as just the tanks are so freaking cheap. That's why I'm just continuously going, because he had to face Guard back to back. It was funny because as this event was happening, my Discord pointed it out to me, and they're like, "This is this guy with Bully Boyz who's just messing up Guard." And I'm like, "Well, he must be unique, dude, because that's just rough." Not to mention that Bully Boyz actually do have the tools, though, to kill kind of Guard, right? Because they actually have anti Lehman Russ weapons in all of these mega knobs. So that actually is kind of cool. So in this next Astra Militarum matchup, we have a Militarum Tempestus command squad, very potent with this kind of unit. They're stacking out kind of killing buffs. So these kind of, you can think of these as like deep striking missiles. You'll stick these to most likely a large unit to Tempestus Scions. We'll see if that happens, but that's what most of the time you see him doing. And he took 3 of these. We have 3 tank commanders. So of course now you guys are all getting orders, and then you have Ursula, who's getting additional orders from what I remember. Then we have 1, 2, 3 big bricks of Tempestus Scions. As I was saying before, you stick these guys on and you stack all their killing potential between orders and their innate data sheet rerolls. 3 chimeras, which are awesome transports. 70 points, guys. 70 points for this kind of transport is pretty awesome. The fact that our battle line is better is it kind of offsets the truck with this, but dude, chimeras are such good value. 2 field ordnance batteries, Lehman Rust exterminators, and then here we go. We see the Ogrins. Ogrins making the appearance. So the other list had the Bulgrins. Now we're already seeing the Ogrins between the Rippers and I think they have combat knives, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just have Ripper guns. Maybe I might be wrong. Let me know in chat. Maybe you guys know. But yeah, so be aware of guard. They're even gonna have indirect fire and such like that, but they're not an easy army to pilot. The fact that he has these Tempestus Scion bricks is quite killy, but they have a good chance of bouncing off, Mega Knobs on the wall. They're gonna have their feel no pains to offset it. They actually have an armor of contempt they have access to in this detachment. They have their battle wagons that they can kind of stage up in. Yes, guard can kill them, but they have to have kind of cross sector of fire. They need multiple Lehman Roses to draw a line of sight onto that. And especially if the Orc player went first in this matchup, where this list doesn't have as much, let's say, something to hold the line, like the other list did, where big bricks of Bulgren, you're kind of getting run over in that case, because these Ogren aren't going to hold the line against all those Mega Nubs, especially when we spoke about that ingressing one. That's not ingress necessary always the ingressing, but the teleporter unit coming on the battlefield is always going to be quite useful. Love that, right? Love that. And maybe maybe Mega Nobs, maybe the Bully Boys really are going to make their appearance. I know I am sticking to the fact that it is a unique Art of War coach, and I want everybody to keep that in mind. That's why I never want people to just look at a list and say I'm going to copy that, because you don't know who was actually piloting that, right? You don't know how many dozens of reps or maybe overall reps in 40K this person has to do it. Usually you just want to look at the kind of skeleton, the structure, the framework of the list, and see if you like that kind of archetype, and then build off that with the collection you have or what you favor. But just know, maybe a lot of us thought that Mega Knives needed to still go down. It might be that our predators or their predators came down enough that it's not that simple, right? But 2 WAAAGHs can always be so freaking strong, right? Right. So let's see. Now we go into his 4th game. Now this game was actually on War Games Live. I won't be like just going through it point by point necessarily. I've thought about doing it for content. I don't know if that's even worth it. But the point is, I want to talk about this without completely, I guess, saying everything that happened. So we have Azrael, a captain with honor vehement, 2 Judiciaries, Librarian Phobos, lieutenant with combi weapons, 2 of those, nice little infiltrators, super cheap, right? They can get right up the field with lone ops. And then Lionel Johnson, very cheap, fighty, punchy boy right here. We have an assault intercessor squad, another assault intercessor squad, infiltrators, 2 units of inner circle companions, triple whirlwinds for the indirect fire. So this list did have its kind of unique threats that other lists don't end up having, like the fact that he actually had whirlwinds. One thing you'll notice between a elite player and a we'll just say casual player is how much they prioritize killing our grots. Yeah, because this guy immediately understood. I'll just blow that off right now. He immediately understood, I'm going to go after grots with these whirlwinds. That's why I need players to understand, when you build into these lists, just like with your offensive plans, you need a contingency for holding your home field objective if you're going to think of going out to a tournament, because some people might simply have that indirect fire, whether it's from a brigand, a soul grinder, a whirlwind, all these little odd and end units that can end up picking up just 11 grots on accident. And then you're like, oh, I guess I'm not scoring my home field. Oops, on linchpin, right? And speaking of linchpin, I believe this mission was linchpin. Let me check. No, this one was deploy locust, I believe, and they had the four corners deployment on this one. But you just think about that, is that you need to actually control your home objective. What if they just blow your grots away? It's like, oh, you need to have a contingency plan for that, because that was happening on this, where he was picking up grots, saying, okay, I'm going to pick up your scoring units, and you're going to have to go toe to toe with me elites when my elites fight first. Now there were moments in the fight, I don't want to give it all up, where there was durability rolls that somebody withstood the fight first, or he pulled the cheeky shenanigans to get around fights first. But all in all, that's the one other thing about Bully Boyz, is that they actually have the potential to withstand these fights from these inner circles with the judiciaries, unlike other Orc detachments where they would just kind of accept the fight on death. Now, would you fight on death with Bully Boyz also? Yes, but the point is, you'll fight on death, and some of your units would just simply survive. Something that other detachments would just say, well, I'll fight on death, and everybody else will just die. So that's another thing that might come up in the meta that you might find more alluring about Bully Boyz, is that if you're dealing with fights of first and all these other different armies, Mega Knobs with Bully Boyz at least give you saves. They give you the chance that you might actually survive these encounters, some of these more janky shenanigans and moments. So you can just kind of, deal with that as an orc player and say, hey, I actually have a potential win with this. Now, is there a skill involved and a little bit of luck? For example, another funny moment that happened was this Lionel Johnson ran into a battle wagon and he hit the battle wagon. The battle wagon blew up, and Lionel took a couple wounds from that, right? So there are things that happen just in games that you can kind of witness that are like, oh, okay, little bit of luck, a little bit of shenanigans, a little bit of just straight up getting stuck in a fight. And that's what I kind of enjoyed about this matchup too, that you kind of get to go over. So I definitely recommend you go check out War Games Live so you can see this game live and how it actually went down per Batum. But this was very much a orc player was just closing the distance, getting stuck in, killing them, because it really came down to, well, once I actually do get involved with your 5 first units, what do you really have left? Right? What do you really have left? Once I take out your inner circle, once Lionel Johnson's there, what's left? So you want to check it out. The game's really just fun to watch, but you get to kind of see how he navigates the fight phase and the order of operations he takes to overcome that elite fight on fight to going toe-to-toe matchup with Black Templars against a very good Colin K. So then we get into his 5th matchup, where is Gene Stealers. He says, my job is the beach. You know what that means, right? Aberrant. And for those of you new, Aberrants are the people used to joke that they're Muscle Beach because they're a bunch of shirtless dudes with hammers. They're all jacked. So we have 3 abominants, which these abominants are quite punchy. I think they get back up, so be aware of that. Biophages, Clamavis, and then a Patriarch. 2 units of these hybrids with flamers, and then another unit of neophyte hybrids. 1 Goliath truck. I'm most surprised there's only 1, to be honest. Usually I feel like people bring more, but we're going to see 1, 2, 3 5-man units of these aberrants, and then a couple, let's see, we got 5 overall of these ridge runners, because there's 2-man units inside of one of these units, right? For 150 points, you're getting 2 of these big bases, kind of like our buggies. Not that our buggies do this. They used to, but they don't anymore. But this is about the size of our buggies. Then we got a hybrid Metaforce. Metamorph. I said Metaforce. And then a big brick of pure strain Gene Stealers, followed by 2 5-man unit Gene Stealers. People tend to do this because, one, it's kind of like a very early game pressure missile kind of unit where they're going to run into you and do dev wounds with these pure strain Gene Stealers. I believe they do dev wounds just like their pure strain counterparts in the actual detachment of Tyranids or faction Tyranids. But the pure strains with their version of a brood lord run up the field, run up right into you alongside these guys. They die, and then the Gene Stealer player starts rolling off for them. And then because they're a fast infantry unit, they can close the distance on you again when they do regen and come back to life. So you're likely to see these, and it's why you want stuff like Zod or screens, the things that get in your way. Even something like Storm Boys might end up not going into Deep Strike, because in this matchup you might just put them in front of other units, so I can run them in front of these guys. There's things that you can maneuver, but be aware that Gene Stealers are going to have a lot of units, and they might just come back to life. If they don't, matchup may be in your favor. But Michael Mann, 79-point win there. And then we go into the actual game that he ended up losing. So he ended up losing to a very, very interesting Ultramarines Vanguard Spearhead. So it's funny because everybody always talks about how Space Marines kind of suck. And I happen to just have a good Space Marine player that I get to encounter for the most in play. And he's a true Space Marine player, and you get to see the tricks and things like the actual Hellblaster bomb strength and Eradicator bomb strength and Manius Calgar strength, and these different named characters from Space Marines, and that's what we ended up seeing here. And if you're playing with someone who's just getting into Space Marines, doesn't have these full-fledged units, and doesn't understand how to take advantage of what's necessarily kind of soft units, right? Because these Space Marines aren't really that durable. They are, at the end of the day, T4. That's why Orks really like going into them. You're playing with kind of like glass cannons in some ways, and it takes reps to get used to that. So we have Apothecary Biologist with the blade driven deep, Captain Sicarius, Lieutenant with combi weapons, Manius Calgar, and then Uriel Ventress. So I'll show you Manius Calgar, and then we have Ventress. Ventress gives an aura of, you can get -1 aura, or sorry, an aura of +1 to your stratagems, but also the Shadow War Lieutenant Veteran, I believe he also does that too. We have the Impulsor, a Devastator squad with the twin blast cannons, Company of Heroes, another unit of Company of Heroes, Eradicator brick, Inceptor units, we have a 3-man unit, a 6-man unit, infiltrator squad, 2 scouts, because everybody loves the fact that scouts can be on the field. And someone, if they want to shoot indirects, weapons, regrets. And no, actually, Lovetron, if they want to shoot their one direct weapons at a grout, it's not an L. Some cases it can be an L, right? If you end up having, let's say, you have knobs dismount from a truck, then of course they'll use that. But if they can end up picking up your home field objective unit that's just staying back there, something that you rely on as an orc player to give you CP, to hold your home field objective so you can score it on certain missions. No, if they can just pick up your grouts and you come with the contingency of something that can hold that for you as well, that can be kind of bad for you as an orc player. Of course, if they're smart, also they'll pick up Storm Boys, right? If you have Storm Boys on the field and they're using them to score, people might end up killing those guys as well. Staging units like flash kits. So there are ways that people will pick smart indirect fire targets, but saying that they just pick Grots as a L isn't always the case. And sometimes people will automatically go for your grouts right away, knowing that they have to chew through the chaff before they can get to your valuable orc units, and they'll just do that. So yeah, I'll agree to disagree, I guess. So then we have, and then like I said, so for this matchup and this list, one thing to keep in mind here is one, this guy was playing Vanguard Spearhead, so you get a bunch of reactive moves. You get the fact that you can pick your units up. So these Centurion Devastators, not only are they great with their anti-vehicle because they have las cannons, they get to re-roll the hit rolls on one. They have a bunch of reliability from the actual stratagems that when they come in from reserve with this Vanguard detachment. So these guys are like immediately popping battle wagons. They're erasing Mega Knob units. And then you have, let me pull this thing up, put them in the way so we can see them all here. Make sure you guys are actually seeing what I can see. Manias Kalgar. So Manias Kalgar is a fun, durable dude that we have here that actually fights. So Manias Kalgar, he's leading a unit. He can fall back, advance, and charge. He has the ability to give you +1 CP. And then if he has these guys in his unit, they can have a feel no pain. Now, it's funny and weird in a way, right? Because usually when we're thinking of bodyguards, we're thinking of the unit that's attached to Manius Calgar, right? So in this case, it was Eradicators. But the Victrix Honor Guard, they're considered a part of his data sheet, even though they are still bodyguards. So they actually allow him, when even one of them is still alive, to have access to a form of feeling pain, and then he can take them on himself. Usually you're like, why would you do that? He would just die, and he's the character. Well, the fact that his other rule is that he, I believe, well, not only does he have a 4 of feel no pain and 6 wounds, but I think it's just the 4 of feel no pain. Yeah, he does. But the fact that he's a 4 of feel no pain and the fact that he can fall back, fight, do everything like that means people want to bring him. And then as for his weapons, he has gauntlets for twin linked, and it's strength 8 -3, 3 damage, and he has access to a power sword as well. So he's getting a boatload of attacks that he can choose to use from. Well, not boatload, but a good handful of attacks he can use to choose to use and constantly fall back and use with them alongside his Victrix Honor card. So in the game here, Calgar ended up becoming a big factor as well. There was a moment where there's interesting moment came up. What I would just say about that is that I'm a little bit more on Joe's side, that you can't police the whole game in every realm, and it's a moment for us all to realize that one, not everybody plays 40k perfectly. There's a lot to remember and a lot of nuance to it. But two, is that at the end of the day, when there's really big important moments, we have to do our best to try to enforce it ourselves on what's just happening, right? Like, look and pay attention to the dice roll when it's a moment. If you can take the time to kind of pay attention to what your opponent's doing, take the time to really pre-measure and talk about your intentions as well. And that's a part of the fatigue that comes into playing all these games. But the best part of this is that you can still look back on it and say, these are the best players in the world that are having this moment. So just know that it's still bound to happen. It's never going to be perfect. So it's not easy, but hey, that's rough, right? And yeah. So what I would say about this is, one, this guy is also one of the best players ever. The best players you can get to come into from Space Marines in Ben Neal. And he just allows you to play this in a very niche way. So you're not going to run into this often. It's not easy to pull this off, but he did pull this off against Michael Mann with a 74-point win. You can actually watch this game on the stream. Really, really cool how you can watch Michael Mann, get rid of screens and then pile into the unit that he actually wants to get into a fight in, even though he didn't declare it as a charge. So taking advantage of your pile in 3 inches after you actually getting your charge can be displayed in real time in that game, and you can go access it. So of course, again, go check out War Games Live. Go check it out. Leave a comment. Tell them War Taktiks sent you to give love to the Great WAAAGH and Michael Mann for his performance. But again, let's go over this list one more time so we can enjoy the units that he appreciate the units that he chose to use. Excuse me. We have a Big Mac with the Driller. By the way, I do say use the Driller because, of course, we want access to that damage 3. We have Boss Nick Rat, 2 War Bosses, 3 War Bosses in Mega Armor, 1 with the Teleporter. Think of it as a QRF unit, right? It's your quick response force. If you're going second and the enemy knows that you're going to be a little bit more on the back foot than you want to be because you're not going first, they're going to be kind of acting in ways that they're going to be setting up to do damage and deliver it to you, and then be screening you out or trying to pressure you on a different side of the field. That's where your Mega Knobs come in and say, oh, you want to run and change it to me? Well, here's a chance I can heroically intervene you. Oh, you wanted to run and charge into me? Well, I'm going to counter charge you next turn. Things like that. So we have Boss, Sneakrat, and another thing to pay attention to, right? A 20-man unit of boys continuously being used throughout, right? Having just a bunch of OC dudes that run over the field, getting involved for the wall, take over objectives, sticky them, can tag a bunch of different vehicles and gun cup gun lines. Feels really, really good once you actually know how to use mobs of boys. So check out our video on that. 1 truck, 2 battle wagons, because battle wagons are great utility, like durability, utility. So I know not everybody has them, but if you have them, don't be afraid to run them. 2 small units of Gretchen. That's why I say if they kill your 1 unit of Gretchen, you only have 1. That's the one problem. But most of the time, I always advise people bring 2 minimum, right? 2 small units minimum. Then we have a commando unit. Commando unit is one of those units that you just need reps into. As much as I advise it, as much as you watch videos on it, getting reps in and just understanding each meta, each matchup, what you're going to use them for is really important for commandos. But playing the early game of infiltration and scouting is important if you choose to play competitive 40k. 3 units of Mega Knobs between Kill Saws, 1 5-man unit of Knobs with Power Claws, and then a Storm Boy. So, whoa, for Michael Mann and his performance at the Denver 40k Fight Club. Now, let's go over into the next performer as we have the next war boss of the Green Tide, which Philip Grunt Waltic. I'm sorry if I messed up your name, dude. I'm not articulate is what I would say. I'm not articulate. Now let me pull up the event real quick because I have it over here. Well, not. Yeah. Boom. I'm gonna put it right over here. Boom. And we have this event is in Germany. Yes, I had to pull this up. Yes, this event was in Germany. Nice to see something a little bit different. Oops. And this orc player ended up getting 6th place right here with Philip, going 4-1 with his Green Tide. Now, this list didn't actually have the point changes. So we have, and then we have a comment right here. Aaron, Shock Jump Jacks instead of Storm Boys. Thoughts? I would have to see the rest of your list, but what I would say is thank you for the super comment, by the way, for the 10 months for being a member. Whoa! For Aaron. What I would say is I have actually used Storm Boys in units outside and detachments outside of Cult of Speed. The one thing I do like about the Storm Boy Shock Jump Jacksta is that it can actually survive small arm engagements. You know, a simple 1 flamer isn't going to erase the unit to the point that it's irrelevant because the Shock Jump Jacksta is T7 with multiple wounds, actually has an armor save. And it can just kind of survive and go touch stuff when it actually appears and covers the distance. And there is something to be said about when you have multiple units of Storm Boys that you want to leave 1 on the field so it can end up just getting in the way of the enemy unit. So when I did end up taking the Shock Jump Jacksta and I took him in Dread Mob, I ended up using the Shock Jump Jacksta to jump into positions on the field where other enemy, let's say vehicles, would try to, I know we're going to just come down that lane and charge me or kill a unit, and I would preemptively take the jogs from Jacksa to take up that spot. Or I would jump into a corner of the battlefield where I knew the enemy wanted to bring in some eradicators or strategic reserve and some other gunline units. Let's say like the Centurions we just talked about. You would shock jump Jacksa to jump over there if you could, preemptively to stop them from coming in. So there is something to be said about bringing the shock jump Jacksa. But it does take that kind of idea in hindsight to want to have that kind of value. And yeah, there's something about commandos just never using them because they're such a big unit. So let's take a look at this green tide list because I'm a big fan of green tide lists. So we have a Zagra Wartsnaga, and you guys know I'm a fan of Zagra Wartsnaga. Check out that video as well. We have a mech with brutal but cunning. 3 Pain Boys, which are such a premium, 80 points for a 3 wound model. GW. We need a 10 to 50 point decrease on that. Let's go. 3 war bosses, one with Voracious Show Off and one with Bloodthirsty Belligerents. I do like that he has triple enhancements on this. I think they're all necessary? Not necessarily, but I do like that they're on there. Brutal but cunning is probably the least important here, but Bloodthirsty Belligerent is probably the most important. Voracious Show Off, there's something to be said about getting to those very high strength thresholds where you wish your war bosses were at all the time. And then we still found points for a weird boy. We have 4 20-man units of boys. Love to see that. Yes, this is prior to the point changes, so 170 is still point change. Sorry, the points here. You can see that he has 3 pain boys, 3 war bosses, and then he's putting a weird boy in another one of these units to jump up the field. Followed by a Death Dread. Yes, we have a Death Dread. So he was deciding he was going to have a simple mech for this one Death Dread. And there's a chance that he actually used the mech on the kill rig. The kill rig's still a vehicle. It's not a monster. So you can still hypothetically give the kill rig +1 to hit for combat. Who would have seen that coming, right? But he has the Death Dread where he has 1 Dreadclaw and then 3 Scorchers. So that's also why it's like more likely for the kill rig or this truck, right? Because he does have a 10-man unit of flash gets and a truck where he can put a mech, have the mech jump out and give him +1 to hit. But the fact that he actually has the enhancement on this mech, on this mech, kind of shows that he was most likely out of all the things I just said within that truck because he had brutal but cunning, so he can CP farm. So that's kind of fun to think about that he was running this individual mech, putting him in a truck alongside the flash kits, jumping out, and then using the flash kits as a mobile gun platform. He has the 22 unit manu size unit of Gretchen, and then a minimum size unit of Gretchen as well. One thing I want to say here is that when we did the video, even last week, before this event even happened, and we talked about what some changes we can look at for the points. One of those changes was running a kill rig inside of your green tide list. With the point changes, with boys coming down and the kill rig coming down, you can actually see this already happening. Now it's more likely and prominent to happen. The point of the kill rig is to get these guys at different strengths. The fact that they actually have a stratagem to re-roll the wound roll in green tide makes this very appealing, alongside giving flash kits different strength thresholds. And the war boss himself, right? Your Voracious Show Off is going to get strength 14 now. That would be beautiful. So I like this list. Let's take a look at his path to victory because I'm a big fan of the green tide. And who isn't, right? Wolf with the green tide. So he goes in his first matchup with his Chaos Demons. So we have Scarbrand, Changeling, Bloodthirster, Great Unclean One with the Endless Gift for the Fort Feel No Pain, 2 Renmasters with Blood Throne, triple Nurglings. Well, no, I'm wrong. 2 Nurglings and then a Plague Bear. 1 Flamer unit followed by 1 Brick of Blood Crushers, a 3-man unit of Blood Crushers, and another 3-man unit of Blood Crushers. This is a pressure-heavy list. If this unit does run into your boys, is doing tremendous damage because the Ren Masters can give these Blood Crushers an additional damage and additional strength. They have the volume. Scarbrand, he gives an aura. I believe it's like plus reroll ones to hit. I think it's reroll ones to hit. It's not +1 attack. I think that's what the actual Bloodthirster does, but he also has a Bloodthirster anyway. So either way, he's getting those abilities on top of those Blood Crushers. How this person would use the Nurgling Swarms would be very important, but we don't know if they actually use them correctly in this case, right? One thing that would always catch someone off guard is the potential of flash kits for their damage to do with their lethal capability here. Boys with rerolling wounds potential here. And just you kind of have the Orc player having the initiative. I would hope that the Orc player went first in this matchup because these guys can start rushing nesting dolls where they just drop down. The next turn, another guy drops in behind them. They have the ability to do uppy downy with their demons. So it's surprising how much damage they can do. Just know that the fact that you're re-rolling wounds in this detachment and kind of healing, auto-seeing them means that if they don't get a good charge off into you and you get into them, and you damage them greatly, they might not just pick your unit up in response, and then you can slowly chip down these monsters. And the Blood Crushers could as well, but I'm still in the feeling that the Orc player went first, because demons, this list particularly, has the chance to kind of just put the momentum on you as the Orc player in response. So I'm very, very much under the impression, and if you do see this video, my friend, Mr. Phillip, and I'm wrong about this, let it be known in the comment, because I'm under the impression that you actually ended up going first here, as this is an easy matchup. These Blood Crushers could very much run in and crush your boy units, even with their feel no pains involved in that. I would say the flash shoots would actually feel really good here, as they would pick up Blood Crushers. Blood Crushers are 4-wound models, so popping lethal and sustain on them. I think there's T7 though, so the guns don't get to the threshold, but having this unit matters a lot. And like I said, having Zagra, Wartsnaga, the ability to scout ahead, how they use the Nurglings, like I said, if they're actually going to infiltrate and stop Zagra. These are plays that you can't know as the person that's observing this matchup, but as you're going into this matchup, you would know what your key units are. Your key units are: one, is Philip going to be going first and using Zagrod correctly? And two, is this demon player going to be using his Nurgles correctly and getting in the way of the Orc player? Is Zod, or does he end up getting in the way of Zod, but end up giving the Orc boys a leap pad to run up and jump on the Nurgling unit, charge up the field, take up the space, and enable the rushing nesting ball early enough in the game? So there's ways that this game could go, but both players have the tools to win. But in this case, Mr. Phillip ended up winning that one. And then he goes into his second game. So into his second game, he ends up losing this. Sorry, guys. Where he goes into, yes, the Thousand Suns. So we have Magnus, Aruman, Exalted Sorcerer, Infernal Master, Zangor's Cultist, 2 10-man units of Rubrics, 2 5-man units of Rubrics, a Vortex Beast, and a Chaos Spawn. This list did go up in points. The Cultist, I believe, the Rubrics cost more now. So just know that this is going to be more potent, not as potent, less potent, because you're going to end up losing some kind of units on here just based off the point increases. And they're going to want to keep characters. They're going to want to keep as many Rubrics as they can. So you're going to maybe lose Angors, or maybe lose Chaos Spawn, or maybe lose, some of the maybe Arcane Vortex and the Zangors with this. So just know T-Suns do come back, and T-Suns have always had the volume and the firepower potential to blow away Green Tide. They've been the Green Tide bane of their existence, and most likely will continue to be, even with the changes. Having flash hits does help this matchup. But that being said, they can still fast enough to outmaneuver you and kill you in response first. Magnus is still a butthead to deal with as well. But kill rates do help in this as well. I do think, looking at Philip's list, maybe if you do see this, Philip, let us know. Do you really, really like that Death Dread? Did you really need that mech? I wonder if that really was worth it overall in the points. It's like those kind of 70 more points in the Death Dread itself, and you start compounding these points together, and you're like, could I have come up with maybe more flash kits if someone owned it? Would another 10 have helped? Is what I'm wondering. Not that I'm saying you should have done it. I want to know, do you think the flash, I found so much value in more flash kits when you're dealing with kind of big bricks of stuff that you want to deliver. Having shooting combined arms helps with that, and these kind of matchups where armies want to just disrespect you and stand in front of you and do damage, but they're not necessarily durable. So if you can shoot back, it helps more. I wonder if that helps with these Green Tides, is really what I'm wondering here. But losing T-Suns, nothing surprising about that when you're playing Green Tide. The amount of damage they can just stack on you and just destroy you is unquestionable. So then Philip in his third game ends up getting 20 points here in this one, going into Space Marines, Raven Guard, Strike Force, Vanguard, Spearhead. So props to this guy for trying to make it work. Let's take a look. But, we all know a lovely fan-made list when we see one. So we have an Apothecary Biologist, Captain and Gravis Armor, and then Shrike. I will say a Captain and Gravis Armor is super fun just overall for Space Marines, right? He halves damage. He can fight pretty good. Stacking enhancements on him feels nice. We have an Assault Intercessor, a Heavy Intercessor Squad, a big brick of Aggressors, which are, they're good, but maybe too much. I don't know, not that good, not 240 points good, but I like to see him. Assault Intercessor with Jump Pack, a big brick. One Ballistus Dreadnought for 140. I feel like this guy kind of sucks, right? So it makes me feel better about Def Dreads a little bit. We have a Blade Guard veteran, a big brick there, a Gladiator Lancer, 2 of those, Inceptor Squad, 3-man unit, Infiltrators, Predator Annihilator, and then 1 Scout. Shout out to him for playing the Raven Guard detachment for his happiness. Then we have his 4th matchup where he goes into Thousand Suns again. So that must feel really good to go, hey, I'm going into Thousand Suns again. I'm going to learn from this first matchup and I'm going to win this, because we've seen he actually did win this. Keep in mind, guys, if both players would have got 10 points, that would have been a tie, right? Because that's how the scoring system works here. The fact that he ended up really just winning by 1 point, which would be to exceed 5 points in a victory, means that it was a very close game. This could have been a 6-point game. And where Philip ended up overcoming this by that. So very happy to see him end up winning that one, learning his lessons from his first matchup in the Thousand Suns. So we have Araman, Exalted Sorcerers on Disc of Zeech, Infernal Master, Infernal Master, Infernal Master, Ragnus the Red, a 5-man unit of rubrics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of the 5-man units of rubrics, followed by a Thousand Sun Rhinos, 2 of those, Thousand Sun Cultists, Zangor and Lion, and then a Zangor and Lighten. So it doesn't have the the vehicle popping, they don't need your vehicle popping. Well, I guess there's a truck and there's a kill rig, but they doesn't have the same amount long range damage potential or these small units that can kind of run around and do actions. Everything's a rubric. This is what looks more likely, which we're going to see going forward, and this is harder for them to kind of play because everything's a rubric. Is the Green Tide back on the menu? It's looking like it, and these are pre-points, right? These are pre-point changes. Someone's bringing them up, and it just looks like a lot of the stuff that's in the meta, people can't tech for everything. Right now, people are really good at killing durable, reduced damage things like Bulgrin and Titan Deathwing Knights. People are good at killing Titanic models and demons and greater demons and stuff like that, because you have to be able to deal with knights and you have to be able to deal with demons. So it's like, well, then do you just run out of things to deal with the hordes? It is matchup dependent, right? Because like we're showing here, some people just can, right? And Thousand Suns are one of them, and he just happened to play 2,000 Suns, which might be a thing for just Germany, right? I know that I would not even see 2 different Thousand Suns at some events that I go to. So it's one of those your meta sort of things. So if you know that you're not going to run into those few armies that are going to beat you up, you'll be able to take off Green Tide. I think you can definitely descend them on your menu. So then we go into his 5th matchup, where he goes into Astra Militarum, which is one of those things that if you go first and you're Green Tide, you run those guys down and you get stuck in those tank tracks so that they do not get into the mid table and you just do not let them score. We have Gaunt's Ghost, which is like this fancy shenanigan unit with a bunch of different abilities. We have Lord Sol Alliantes, a Militarum Tempestus command squad. So this guy's gonna end up acting like a missile with the 10-man unit of Silence, probably. We have a platoon command squad followed by a regimental engineer, a Catachan Jungle Fighter unit, 1, 2, 3 of those for that scouting potential. Like, love to see that. And then a basic infantry squad. 1 unit of Atalanta Rough Riders. I like that for countercharging. A Bulgrin squad, followed by another Bulgrin squad, and then another Bulgrin squad. So we got 3 units of Bulgrin making their way downtown. And like this is pretty nerf. So these guys are gonna cost more points now. Hydra, we have an Ogren bodyguard, followed by Rogue Wildorns, 2 of those, and then 2 Scout Sentinels with a Tempestus Scion unit. So I guess they couldn't afford the 10-man unit, so just 5-man. Still deliver good damage. But does this look like this list really has all the focus fire to really run down a Green Tide? Not really sure about that, right? Especially if Green Tide goes first. One thing is the Bulgrin would be kind of like annoying to deal with, but boys don't hate to be stuck there and just auto-seeing them winning on primary, and still just kind of playing the rest of the field. I just love the fact that he had a Death Dread in this list. Can we just take a chance to just appreciate that I had the Death Dread with 3 Scorchers? It just cracks me up that he just fit that on the list. As I'm looking at his list, and I'm like, if you made a Green Tide list in this archetype, would you keep the Death Dread? Let me know in the comments if you would you keep the Death Dread and be like, I like this list so much, I'm gonna keep the Death Dread in this Green Tide list. He did have that Hydra too. Hydra's kind of like, man, there maybe guard is going to fit a couple more indirect fire weapons. I'm not sure about that. This was pre point changes, so can't take this list and what it is too serious, because, like I said, Bulgren are going to be gone. But he ended up winning that with a 14-point win. Great job to Mr. Philip Grunk Woltic. Sorry if I messed up your name. Whoa for the Green Tide for 4-1. As we have Zagra Wartsnaga, one Mac with Brutal but Cunning for CP farming. Yes, I do think he was inside the truck with the 10-man unit of flash kits. We have 3 Pain Boys with 3 Boar Bosses, 1 with Show Off, 1 with Bloodthirsty Belligerents, and then we have a Weird Boy as the Warlord, most likely trying to do a secret mission. We have 4 20-man units of boys, followed by Death Dread, 1 Claw, followed by 3 Scorchers, a Kill Rig to give these boys possibly lethal or +1 strength for that, so they can kind of go with that re-rolling wounds potential. We have a 10-man unit of flash kits because I think having some kind of firepower is definitely very, very useful. But we've seen that just having flash kits for more wounds for very similar point costs and not giving them Call the Horde feels really nice with flash kits. It's really beneficial to the boys. I love to see it. We've seen 30 of them even brought. And then a big unit of Gretchen to go with Zagra and Wartsnaga because you're playing the nice. We're going to take up the field because boys are kind of slow. We're not paying for the wagons. The Zagrat's going to run up the field, take up space. So one, you're not going to get in my way. You're not going to start parking Land Raiders. You're not going to start parking Lehman Russes in the middle of the tank. Rogel Dorns, Tyrannofexes. You're not going to put these stupid things in the way. My boys are going to fill up the objectives with their OC and then slowly make you kill them all away. And I'm going to keep winning on primary. Zagrat helps you deliver that system. So I can see why would you bring them, because playing early is very, very important. Then we have the 1 small unit of Gretchen and the truck to go alongside those with those flash kits. Like I said, it's a gun platform. It's a gun mobile bunker, right? The truck's moving, the flash kits are shooting, the mech's jumping out, giving it +1, or the sitting inside the vehicle and it's just collecting CP farming. Woo woo. So shout out to Philip. Whoa for the 4-1 Green Tide, because no one was giving Green Tide their love anymore, because Call the Horde scared everybody away, right? For the most part, everybody just saying like, I don't want to deal with Call the Horde. I don't want to deal with people playing fixed secondaries. I have to have a bunch of characters. This sucks. So I appreciate you still bringing life into the Green Tide. Now we move into a War Horde list. So the last list we're covering this weekend is Courtney Rhodes with his new War Horde list. So this was in England last summer. Winehammer for 7. Shout out to Morning Glory. I think he was talking about Winehammer before. He's funny. So here we go. 3rd place, Courtney Rhodes, where he's 4-0-1. So he had 1 draw, 93-point draw to this Ta Empire person. So shout out to him for that, guys. Imagine how you feel going into there, right? So this was in the UK, so they are using a UKTC terrain. So I'm not too familiar with, but I have seen it. It is quite different than what I'm used to playing on. Sometimes they get stuff rather than lines of sight for shooting. What I will say is some objectives do seem like they're pretty line of sight open, like the middle one is always, but there's always one that's kind of favored. So I wonder what kind of, if we've seen this gun line right here at this Ta Empire. So let's see what Courtney Rhodes' list ended up really looking like when he's bringing the love back to the War Horde. So he has Ghaz Gulthraka. So Ghaz Gulthraka is freaking awesome in War Horde. He's so good. He hits at his actual proper point cost, proper character, super leader, supreme commander as he should. He does everything justice as he should when he's in War Horde. That being said, he is now coming under question. And now comes my time to defend Ghaz once again, to tell you that he is great, but that I cannot 100% guarantee that he should be on your list. Now, with that said, I do want to pull this up again, as sometimes the past reflects the future. As we did see in Index when people were in love with kill rigs / spamming trucks and playing MSU War Horde, people didn't give Ghaz love. People weren't sold on bringing a Ghazghul. And as the meta shifted and adjusted to a little bit more elite infantry and 2-up saves and armor of contempt and playing for the middle objective and these different things, like the lack of the secret mission where now you can run up primary, people end up leaning back into Ghaz and deciding that they don't want to just simply bring a bunch of stuff. So now we're under the place again where people go, do I just want to bring more kill rigs and bring more things? Or is Ghaz going to end up finding his way into your list again, just like he did in Index Hammer when people didn't give him love, and there he came back to shine again. And right here we can see in Courtney Road, just showing as of last weekend when, Orks weren't actually even given a buff, he already had Ghaz WAAAGH on this list. Are we going to see him remaining? Is yet to be seen. I'm under the impression that Ork players are going to go away from him and then slowly find their way back to him, because he just serves a different role in War Horde than anybody else can actually deliver. Then we have 3 war bosses. We have Zagra, Wartsnega. We have 2 20 size unit of boys. I have 22, sorry about that. 20 man size unit of boys there. 3 individual trucks, 1 battle wagon, 3 5-man units of flash kits, followed by 2 small Gretchen units and 1 big max size 22-man unit of Gretchen, 2 mega knobs, just for bodyguards for the gas, and then 3x5 knobs. So of course we can see that he's running triple SWAT team. We have a boys unit that's simply sitting inside the battle wagon, and then another boys unit that's simply sitting on the field staged up. Why? Because one thing we know from the UKTC terrain that I've seen is that you can simply stage right there in the middle objective terrain with your boys, and just you turn 1, run up, and just stand right there, right? And if you're standing right there, it means you're available for here we go. So whenever it's time to actually pull the ripcord on the wall, your boys have somewhere to actually, stack that buff of movement. Another thing here is that you have Zagra Wartsnega as well. So they would go in tandem. A lot of SWAT teams love 5-man units of flash kits. So versatile, guys. I used to bring like a 10-man and 2 vibes. I just decided I didn't want to take the space and I wanted to use the points for other things nowadays. Really, really like 3x5 flash kits at this moment. So very digging Courtney Road's list. So let's take a look at his path to victory as we have the UKTC terrain. So we're going into his first matchup where he has Imperial Knights. And we have Canis Rex does what? So Canis Rex, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4 Arbinger Hellglaives, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Warglaives, a Clades Assassin, a Navigator, and some Voidsmen at Arms. We do know that the Canis Rex went up in points. He was a menace all around. This is kind of like playing Baby Knight. This is a gatekeeper thing you have to know how you're going to handle. Again, that's where Ghaz ends up coming into play. Giving lethal allows a bunch of these different Ork units to actually punch up into that. Him himself allows him to punch out Canis Rex when it's time for Canis Rex to actually commit to the middle of the game and actually start participating in the game. So that with that being said, he had all the tools to kind of handle that kind of list, but you really do have to, as if you're going to an event, knights are kind of those gatekeeper armies that they just bring you and they go, can you beat me? If you don't have ways to deal around my damage and my my toughness, then hey, you didn't have a fully built out list. Usually Beast Boss makes it the easiest, right? Especially knights come down in points. But this was prior points, right? Remember, like we said, when I showed you the list, these are all pre-decreases that we just seen. So then we have his second matchup where he goes into World Eaters. So this is now nerfed World Eaters. We have Angron, Karn the Betrayer, and Master of Executioner with the Berserker Glaives. We have the Jackal, followed by 1 5-man units of Jackals, 2 5-man units of 1 10-man unit of Jackals, 2 5-man units of Berserkers, followed by 2 Rhinos. These are going to escort those characters and those 8-bound, and then those Berserkers. 2 units of 3-man 8-bound, a fat 6-man unit of Exalted 8-bound, followed by 2 3-man unit of 8-bound, and a World Eaters Chaos Pawn. I would bring more of these guys. God, these guys are so super freaking annoying, man. Right? I wish my Storm Boys could beat these guys up for 65 points. Sometimes I bring Flash Kits just because I hate these guys, and Flash Kits have the best chance of one-shotting them. So not one-shotting them, killing them between shooting and fighting. But yeah, as for this matchup, now War Horde and World Eaters have always been a favorable matchup for us. The fact that we can guaranteed fight on death really, really helps. The fact that we still have enough assets to resource transports to screen them out really, really feels good as well. And then we have Ghaz WAAAGH to deal with like the damage part, maybe help finishing off Angron or getting some jump on Angron, because he does have access to Feel No Pain. He does access to -1 damage in combat. So simply throwing a unit of, let's say, 10 knobs is not a solution to something like Angron. When it is time to kill him, that's where Ghaz again kind of as coming into play here. Another thing is having Zagra Wartsnaga feels really, really good in this matchup. Now, this isn't Dreadmaw where you can react to move and get in the way, but you can still preactively use your scouting unit and his big giant size unit to get in the way of 8-bound, Zerkers, stuff like that. Angron himself so that he can't be delivered. And then when they run into Zod and they realize Zod's a little bit harder to kill than they expect, that's when you really get your chance to kind of respawn and clap back. So just keep that in mind. That something that's really important for us as orc players, especially when we're going to other melee fights where these armies hit better, is use your screens, use your grouse, use your stormlights, use your transports, your trucks, your battle wagons, all these things to kind of soak up the enemy's initial charge on you because they're faster than you, they get more short outcomes than you, they hit harder than you, and then you respond, you hit them. If they have fight first, you have durable units like Meganobs that can actually take them, or you have your CP in the bank so you can fight on death. These are the keys to victory to go into these, but you have all the tools when you play War Horde into World Heaters. Courtney ended up reflecting that with the 100-point win. Then we go into his third game where he goes into Tyranids Invasion Fleet. Tyranids aren't too easy, but we'll see what kind of list this looks like, right? Because it's hard to have the most proficient list and actually have all the collection. So we have a Neuro Tyrant, a Swarm Lord, 2 20-man units of Hormagaunts. I love my Hormagaunts, right? Being able to just my Hormagaunts, I do own Tyranid army as well. These boys being able to get +1 strength now synapse, and they have advance in charge feels really good. They have access to, of course, because it's an invasion flight, lethals or sustain. Keep that in mind. We have Biovores, 3 Exocrines, a Hive Tyrant unit for the Swarm Lord, 2 Lictors, 2 Maleceptors, a Trigon. What the hell? I just made up a Tyranid name. A Trigon, and then a break of Brain Bugs for the anti-tank potential. So for this matchup, again, having Ghaz makes a huge difference. Ghaz is one of the reasons why I brought for Tyranid matchups, so you can kind of run them down. I do recommend that you do run down Tyranids as well. Is that you just have to kind of get into them. Your boys into Hormagaunts is a fun matchup, but your boys end up coming out in favor in that because they have higher wounds, they have sustained. Sorry, they have a higher toughness than these guys' strength, and they have equal around the wounds. Plus, they have the proper volume and potential to punch through. You do have to keep in mind that they can feel no pains and they can actually regen, but you still can pretty much punch them out with Ork boys. This kind of Tyranid list doesn't have anything other than these Maleceptors to hold the middle of the table. So once you identify that and the Swarm Lord, you just commit. You just SWAT team up the field. Make sure that if they get popped, they can disembark somewhere safe where they don't get killed. You end up using your flash gifts to kind of deal with any kind of like small units if you can get on a Lictor. That's why it's important to have stuff like flash gifts so you can actually deal with something like a Lictor, because you don't want to have to like try to put some kind of boys into him or even like 5-man unit of knobs into him because he has precision and he can actually killing something like a war boss and kill knobs. So having flash gifts really helps get close enough that your knobs can get out and they can punch away. Let's say they can get into a fight with Zoanthrope, so they can get into a fight with the Hive Guard and assist Ghaz Golthraka while your flash gets shoot away the Lictors that are maybe trying to assist or set on objectives that your Chucks ended up holding them and within. So having SWAT teams and having combined arms matters a lot in this matchup because you really would want that. Otherwise, how would you engage with these Lictors other than throwing units into them and then end up getting killed by them? So be aware of that, and shout out to him. Even though it wasn't the most efficient Tyranid list, he ended up having all the tools to kind of deal with that. Now we go into his fourth game, which was into the Tau Empire, Monka. And that's with this new KFTC terrain, which is notoriously said to have an open line of sight. Shout out to Brian for bringing the Big Mac here so you can get through like those terrains that run from terrain to terrain. So we have Cadre Fireblade, Commander Shadow Sun, Coltsark, Battlesuit Commander, and then a Dark Strider. Who wants to say that about the battle suits in this list? 1, 2. Chat, let me know. You think they're gonna have a lot of suits? I think so. We have a Breacher team followed by Devilfish. We have 1 Starscythe Battlesuit unit followed by Ghost Keel, Hammerhead gunships, 3 of them, all with rail guns, Seeker missiles, and Twin Link missile systems. Kroot Rider. That's a 1 individual guy for 35 points. A Piranha. 2 Piranhas. And remember, I think Piranhas make you take battle shock tests. Don't forget that, Orc players. They can try to stop you from doing hard as nails. We have Riptide battle suits, 3 of those, followed by 1, 2 units of stealth suits. So 2 stealth suits, triple Riptide battle suits, double Piranhas, triple Hammerhead gunships, and then a Ghost Kill battle suit and some Starsight battle suits. So it's less battle suits, but a lot of redundancy in this list. Not a lot of transports. What I will say is that's some firepower. That's some firepower with these Riptides and then those Hammerheads. Stealth suits help a little bit for taking up the table. What I will say is there's probably just enough terrain from what I remember from these UKC terrains that you can actually stage up all these vehicles and then pop out and shoot when you want. And it very much becomes like, okay, there's one objective that I for sure cannot put any of my orcs on because it's going to get killed. So we'll let the enemy have that one. And then whoever goes into the middle objective is going to end up getting automatically killed because it's a middle objective. So no one's going to hold that. So really, we're just going for this one objective over here and we're holding our home. So I can see a lot of the time how they end up getting ties on here, just rack up the points because it's very much like stage up, pop out, I kill you. Stage up, if you walk over here, you're super dead. From what I've seen from those terrains, just my opinion from what I've seen. Then we have his final matchup, which is against Thousand Suns, which Thousand Suns are potent killers. So we have Aruman, Exalted Sorcerers on disc, Exalted Sorcerer on disc, Infernal Master, and the Magnus the Red, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of Rubric Marines, Zangor unit, Mutilix Vortex Beast, Thousand Suns Chaos Spawn, followed by 2 units of Cultists and a Zangor Enlighten. Zangor! What I will say is I really, really wonder where Thousand Suns are going to end up here. If Thousand Suns player are going to just give up and decide, like, I don't really feel like keep getting nerfed and playing, which is less and less stuff to where I can't make any mistakes and I have to go multiple rounds, or if they're just going to ride it out, right? But if you do, hear about Thousand Suns player being there, I find it important that you just understand their rules so you don't feel bad about their movement shenanigans. They're very, very high DPS. Just know this is not one of those armies where you just stand in the middle and go, well, I'm just going to ride it out on Ghaz's invul. And like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't just throw units away. This is one of those armies that you cannot just sit there and say, I wonder if you can kill 20 boys. Let's see. No, they can. So when you're ready for that to happen, make sure the boys have already done their duty with pressure and tagging or killing something else, right? So shout out to Corny Rhodes for overcoming this Thousand Suns list as well. Ended up getting a 74-point win, getting third place here. Interesting enough, Gene Stealers ended up winning this event and Tau Player getting second. So crazy outcomes at this event. Found it very, very interesting, and I appreciate Courtney Rhodes and his War Horde. Whoa! So let's go over his list one more time as people have given up on Ghazghul because now we all got cheaper tools. But will we actually give up on Ghazghul in the long run, in a month from now, in 6 weeks from now, in 8 weeks from now? Will Ghazghul make his appearance? Let me know in the comments. 3 war bosses, Zagreb Wartsnaga, 2 20-man units of boys, 3 trucks for triple SWAT teams, a battle wagon to escort 1 boy unit, and then 1 boy unit stays on the field because they're ready to sit right alongside Ghaz, and they're ready to just sit there for here we go from when the wall turns popped. 3 flash kit units, 3 5-man units and knob units, like I said, for the SWAT teams, 2 units of minimum size Gretchen units. I think a lot more people are coming with Hyper Crib, Deep Strike, Grey Knights, Quillons. You need those double Gretchen units to really screen your home field objective and just screen your backfield more reliably. So I do recommend minimum size bringing 2 of those Gretchen units. But Zagreb Wartsnag a great utility because playing early games with scouting and infiltrate super important. Always recommend it right now if you're playing competitively. 2 Mega Knobs because that's all you need for the cheap bees. So shout out to Courtney Rhodes and his War Horde list. So, guys, we went over how the orcs have been doing. As you can see, people are already using units and lists and combos that we already predicted are going to be coming forward with the point decreases. So, let's see if that continues to ride out. I'm going to be sticking to Dread Mob because I personally have fun doing that, but I still think orc players should have fun and think about the fact that GW might end up giving us love in December. If they do, we really hope they hit a couple walkers, call to speed, and the hunts because those guys are left behind in the dust. But I don't want us to lose hope, of course. Have fun with those things and just figuring things out. Orcs in a good spot. GW has done a good job on making everything balanced. So I think that's going to keep reflecting. And I think that just gives more credence to everybody playing what they want to play and becoming proficient in the rules, just rolling out dice, playing the game proficiently in an effective manner, in a friendly manner, in a non-pressuring manner, and not chasing a meta, because just understanding your unit and what it does, playing it to the most potential. Like, I'm just set on trying to make 12 mega knobs. I'm gonna say 12 mega knobs, 12 kilocans work, or 6 kilocans work. I'm just doing it. I'm just making it work, just like I wanted to with the Stampa, and I got an RTT win with it. You know, you just gotta kind of go out there and run things through. Sure, you're not gonna end up as an Art of War coach. Guess what? That was never your intention when you started 40K. So just play how you want to play with the tools you want to do, because you have the most skill and success, and you'll maximize the ceiling of your potential when you play units you actually want to run and have the most excitement with. So just keep doing that, because as you can see, things constantly change. So if you were chasing the meta, you would have been sad anyways. If you gave up on all the mega knobs and you sold them, now they got a change in their back and they could have been run. Why'd you give up on them, right? It's just the things come and go all the time, and just know it's all about having fun in the community as a whole. So that's why you should also check out our hobby stream that we're doing next Thursday at the end of the month, last day of the month, for Orktober, where we're going to be showing off my army, but also the community's armies. It's time for everybody to see the whole Great WAAAGH, and it's time for the whole YouTube community and Warhammer community to finally witness what the Great WAAAGH is. So we'll be showing off everybody's armies, because the Great WAAAGH is not my wall, but it is our wall. So I want to reflect that in October. So yeah, with that being said, guys, have fun, get stuck in, lads. Check out Baron of Dice and our wall tactic dice, because it helps us out a lot, especially this week. Easiest way and most beneficial way to help the channel. And of course, there's always one thing to keep in mind: is don't cross our wall, because we not get teeth out.